What is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the one and only CJ the Cheese DJ here, back with another ARK INSIGHT video, and today we're looking at the two behemoths behind me, as you couldn't already tell, the Mosasaurus and the Plesiosaur. Now these two are pretty much the underwater kings of the ocean. We're just going to take some area, there we go. And as you can see, they're both level 52. Now in the last video, the Rex and the Therizinosaurus, we did spawn them in at level 1, but for some reason the Plesiosaur did not want to spawn in at level 1. No matter what I tried, we just couldn't get him into level 1. So we decided to spawn them at both level 52. Now this might affect their stats by a slight amount, but nothing to make too much of a difference. Now, as you can see, we've already got their health up, their stamina, their food, their weight, their melee damage, their movement speed, and their torpor. And already you can see that the Mosasaurus has a huge health pool at 8,000 health. The Plesiosaur, on the other hand, only has about 3,000 health on. You can see they're 2,976. Their stamina, the Mosasaur had about 800, the Plesio has about 300. But without further ado, let's start getting into the tests. Okay, so next up we tested the Moses speed, and he ran the course that we provided, and he completed it in 7.62 seconds, which is relatively fast for a Mosasaur. He is pretty fast and pretty speedy. Next up we'll take a look at the Plesiosaur. Next up the Plesiosaur's speed was tested. So he ran the course from the flag point to the next flag point, and he did it pretty fast. He did it slightly faster than the Mosasaur. He only managed to do it in 6 seconds, whereas the Mosa did it in his required time. So, you know, there is quite a bit of difference in between speed between the Plesiosaur and the Mosasaur, although that's to be expected even if you just look at the design of them. The Mosasaur is a big hulking beast, while the Plesiosaur is more of a tranquil kind of glider across the oceans kind of dino. Now, they both had the same amount of movement speed. As you can see, the Mosasaur had only 100 and the Plesio only had 100, so there was no need to further test their movement speed and add any fancy equations to it. Next up, we tested their stamina. And the Plesiosaur was able to maintain speed for quite some time. He only had 300 stamina, so that's pretty impressive feat. He managed to sustain his sprinting speeds for 16 seconds, which is okay, but you know, it's nothing compared to be able to traverse the oceans, especially when the oceans are so large. You want a dino that has a lot of stamina so you can just continue sprinting on throughout the ocean. And you can see he's already tired. We then tested the amount of stamina that the Mosasaurus used, and he lasted 41 seconds maintaining sprint speed. Now, the Mosasaurus does have a base stamina amount of 400, which is double that of the Plesiosaur. The Plesiosaur only has a base of 200 stamina, so already there you can see that the Mosasaur has more stamina than the Plesiosaur. As well as this, the Mosasaur's base health is higher, and much higher than the Plesiosaur's, hence why he's got much larger health pool. Next up, we looked at their weight. Now, the Mosasaurus has a base weight of 1,300, while the Plesiosaur only has a base weight of 800. And as you can see, his weight is at 1,352. Now, when you level up his weight, it goes up in increments of 4% of his 1,300%. So you'll see there, he's gone up to 1,406, which is 4% of his maximum weight. Now, if we come across to the Plesiosaur, he is in the same boat as well. He also only gathers 4% of his weight. You can see there, boom, 4%. Okay, guys, next on to the next one. We then looked at their turning radiuses, and the Plesiosaur is much easier to control and turn than the Mosasaur is. Just at the beginning of this video, lining them up to try and get that perfect shot was such a pain in the bum with the Mosasaur. He was just doing his own thing, and he's got such a large turning radius. I'm pretty sure his is much larger than the T-Rex's, and it's just huge. So the Plesiosaur has quite a tight turning circle. You can see there for underwater. I mean, it's worse than the Megalodon, but you know, it's much better than the Mosasaurus's. And this was the Mosasaurus's turning radius. As you can see here, if we come around, it'll take us a long time. You can see how big of a circle he's taking. It's just so big, his turning radius. Now that's while sprinting. While swimming regularly, he's still got quite a large turning radius. If not, it's harder to turn while regularly walking or swimming at regular speed. And you can see there he's quite large in turning. Next up, we tested their melee damage. Now, as you can see here, the Plesiosaur has a base melee damage of 75 points. So what you have to do to calculate their actual melee damage amount they do is times that base damage by the percentage of their melee damage. So all we did was 75 times 151.7, and our resulting amount was 113. So the Plesiosaur does 113 per strike. Now this is its actual DPS, and it isn't against that structures, so that's how much damage it does to actual dinos. We then tested the melee damage of the Mosasaurus, and the Mosasaurus has a base damage of 100. We're just going to whistle passive here. The Mosasaurus has a base damage of 100, and you just have to go about the same process as the Plesiosaur does. So you times his base damage by his melee damage, which was 100 times 179.5, and our resulting amount was 179 DPS per hit. So he does 179 damage per attack, which is a lot higher than the Plesiosaur. The Plesiosaur only did 113, so that just goes to show that the Mosa is a much stronger dino than the Plesiosaur in terms of biting power and damage. I then tested their meat gathering skills, and as you can see from the Mosa, as expected, it managed to gather 70 raw prime meat from a single Mosasaurus corpse, which is pretty impressive by that standard. Next up, the Plesiosaur and gathering prime meat. So the Plesiosaur just fell short of the Mosasaurus, only managing to gather about 64 prime meat, which is still pretty impressive. However, the Mosasaur was able to gather 8 prime meat. However, if you can gather that much prime meat, you don't really need to be that worried about taming a Mosasaur to gather prime meat, as the Plesiosaur is very close and you're not going to need that much prime meat for anything really. However, this is on a 3x server, so our single player world has 3 times the amount of gathering, so technically they only managed to gather about 20 prime meat per Mosasaurus corpse. Next up, we tested their Torpor and how much trank arrows it would take to knock them out. And all up, the Plesiosaur took 42 trank arrows for it to pass out, from a regular primitive crossbow and with regular 5-second interval times in between shots. Next up, we looked at the Torpor of the Mosasaurus and how many trank arrows he would take to knock out. And this guy is a big whopper. He has over 18,000 Torpor. You can see there, 18,300 Torpor. And this guy takes a lot of trank arrows. This guy took 78 trank arrows to knock out, which is quite a large amount. And another side thing to note of this guy, you're going to need about 800 narcotics to tame this guy up if you're on regular official servers. That's 800 narcotics, which is a crazy amount. The Plesiosaur, on the other hand, only required about 300 narcotics to knock out. A level 52 that is as well, guys. So you got to take that into consideration as well, as I was unable to spawn them in at level 1. At level 1 they'd have much lower Torpor rates, but even so they'd still require a large amount of trank arrows and narcotics. Next up, we made them fight each other to the death. Now, you can see there we've just set our Mosasaurus to aggressive. What we're going to do is we're going to set the Plesiosaur to aggressive and unclaim the Plesiosaur. That way the Plesiosaur will get the first hit in just to see how it goes. As you can already tell that the Plesiosaur is slightly weaker than the Mosasaurus. Alrighty, and here they go. And you can already see that their turning radius plays a huge part in this. Now, unfortunately, we're kind of caught in the middle of this, so we're just going to have to fix this up and then we'll continue with the fight. Okay, so while these two try and battle it out with their terrible turning radiuses, we're just going to do a quick summary of them. So pretty much the Mosasaurus is the king of the deep. There's no doubt about it. He's got such a large health pool, much higher base damage than the Plesiosaur does. His weight is also higher. However, the only downside of him is that his turning radius is horrible. Like, look at that. If you tamed yourself a Plesiosaur and went up against a wild Mosasaur, you could probably outmaneuver it and easily kill it without taking too many hits. So, you know, you've got that aspect to look at. Now, the Plesiosaur, he's still got quite a large health pool, quite a high amount of melee damage. He does do more damage than the Rex does. He has a higher base damage than the Rex. The Rex, I believe, only has a base damage of 72, so he's much stronger than the Rex. As well as that, his stamina is kind of low, so you've got not much stamina. However, his movement speed is quite high, so you've also got that bonus for you. Now, my personal opinion, I'm falling on the Plesiosaur with this one. The Mosasaurus is just too much of a pain in the bum. His taming, his turning radius, he's just too big. He takes too long to turn. Look, you can see in there, he can't even catch the Plesiosaur because his turning radius is too large. The amount of time and narcotics and resources you need to tame is incredible. Plus, the Plesiosaur is much more aerodynamic underwater. He's a lot faster, a lot more maneuverable than the Mosasaur is. I mean, you've got the next level down from this is probably the Megalodon, and I'd much rather tame a Plesiosaur than a Megalodon because the Plesiosaur is Prince of the Deep, pretty much. If the Mosasaurus is King of the Deep, the Plesiosaur is the Prince of the Deep. And yeah, guys, that's just my opinion. So thanks for watching, guys. That'll be it for today. These two are never going to stop fighting. I don't think we're ever going to get a winner. Let's take a look. Let's see if any of them are bloody. So the Plesiosaur isn't even bloody. Our Mosasaur isn't even bloody. That's just how bad it is. Like, they're just going to keep spinning and turning forever. So we're going to end the episode here, guys, while they circle around us trying to catch each other and eat each other. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you guys thought of it down below in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.